This is what a poor, small coal mining town looks like that went from over 5,400 residents to less than 500 today. Today, I'm taking a journey back to the past the coal mining days. I'm currently in Frackville, Pennsylvania, and down here in and around Schuylkill County, there's plenty of areas that show signs of the coal mining days, including the famous town of Centralia. But we're going to see much more than just that. I will be utilizing my Aoki A8 Pro Max for today's journey as I travel through several towns and show you things like a geyser, old mine buildings, steam vents, and more. So you're invited to come along with me as we travel today to see what's left of our coal mining days. I'm currently on Altamont Boulevard and I'm making my way through Frackville to pick up Route 924. And that is a really skinny house. Wow. It's going to be about 10 feet wide. Now, if you ever hear people talk about coal country or hear me reference that, well, there's several areas that can be considered coal country, but this is specifically one of them, Schuylkill County area, because the towns like Frackville, St. Clair, and the town named especially Minersville all had a part to play in coal mining. Oh, here's some classic vehicles. Blazer, Bronco, pickup truck. So there's no shortage of history down here when it comes to coal mining. And that's why I want to focus on that. Both the towns, the remnants left over, the part it played. We're going to see a little bit of all of it. As I'm passing through the downtown area, I came upon these old buildings, look like old factories. They've definitely seen better days, and they are nestled right here, pretty much in the middle of a neighborhood. Without a doubt, today we're going to be coming across a lot of row homes and duplexes. You can see that single home right there was once part of a row home, would have been connected on both sides. Duplex here, the different color siding for each residence, and over here 3 of them connected as a small section of row homes. And when one or more than one gets torn down, you get left with an individual house like that that looks out of place. It's really skinny, really narrow, because normally it's surrounded by other homes. So there would have been a bridge above us at one time, probably elevated rail line. Currently traveling on Route 924 on the way to my first location. You can see on the left-hand side, big mounds of Coleman silt. Worked coal mining areas. There's no shortage of them down here. Thought for a second there's a train coming, the signals are going off, but there's no train in sight. Currently passing through a really small coal town that we're going to be focusing on in just a little bit. But the first location we're going to is one I've actually documented almost 4 years ago to the date, and we're almost there. Welcome to Mahanoy City, our first location on today's tour. What we're looking at, obviously, is old worked coal mining ruins. This was also the site of the St. Nicholas Breaker, a really gigantic coal breaker and colliery site. Did reside here, and it was demolished a number of years ago. And today it's basically a wasteland of ruins, including some old buildings, equipment, waste mounds and mountains of material. But the property is still used, so I can't venture back there. There is trucks coming and going. But I have documented this area on a roadside finds video 4 years ago. And we're going to see some things that are familiar and other things I could basically show you how they look in modern day, because we're going to go across or come across an active coal mining site not too far from here. Back in the day when this was in operation, this red building here was a scale house or scale building. And right there is a concrete pad, which was the scale itself. Loaded and unloaded trucks would pass through here to get their weight to determine how much they're hauling, whether they're bringing it in or most likely taking it out. But this is sitting here abandoned, forgotten, but we are going to see one that is active that looks really similar to this, and you'll be able to see past and present in just a little bit. But this was one of the many aspects of a coal mining operation, is keeping tabs on the weight of the material that was most likely being removed from the mining site. And just across the street is some more ruins, which I've documented. May be able to tell, it looks like stairs right there, or remains of stairs. This was actually an old elementary school. There's an individual who lives down here in one of the Patchtown homes, and he said he graduated from elementary school here in 6th grade. So just imagine you had an elementary school, and across the street was a colliery and breaker site. And I'd imagine a lot of the students who went to school here ended up getting jobs over here at the mining site. There's a couple homes here. At one time there was a few more. This was a little patch town for the workers and the families of the coal mine company. But directly across the street is another remnant from the past. More remains from the coal mining days. This is a way station, and I'll give you a brief look at it, let you know what its purpose was for. So this two-story building here was part of the coal mining operation. Back in the day, there was a rail line that came down here. It was a gravity-fed line. Upstairs, there are handles that work to brake to stop loaded coal cars. So there was a brakeman up there. They would stop the loaded coal car, get its weight, and then release it, and gravity would take it down towards the rail yard. This is a coal mining weigh station used to weigh the loaded coal cars. So up there, they weighed the loaded trucks. Here, they weighed the loaded coal cars. When I visited here the first time, the gentleman who lives across the street told me this has been abandoned for as long as he's been alive. So it's been abandoned for over 50 years. And now it's basically a dumping ground. People have discarded furniture in here, but there is some furniture left over too from when this was in operation. There's an overturned desk, some chairs, but then you have a box spring, and then you have stairs going upstairs, and I think this is like maybe a little furnace room. There's also stairs going, oh yeah, right here, downstairs as well to the basement. You can actually see where the lever is installed up there on the second floor. The mechanism is coming down, connected there on the floor, and then went outside. Now the rails are no longer there. There is just a watery pit, but there's some rail ties out here, and there may be something down there in the woods that I found last time. We're going to see if it's still there. But this is what it looks like on the inside of a coal mine weigh station for loaded coal cars. Probably part work environment, part break room, maybe even part apartment if you spend a few shifts here, or maybe had to take a nap. But it is certainly large enough. I said this would be great to convert it into a home or residence. It's really built well. Pipes are covered in asbestos. It would need some major updating, but steel steps, not rotting anytime soon. Concrete walls, cinder block, and it's still surviving today. This home is now empty, abandoned, and trashed. Looks like it went through a war. There's cushions in the windows, planks of wood sticking out, broken screens. But probably in a matter of time, it will get knocked down. Two more things I do want to show you. First off is this building here. And I'm not 100% certain, but I do have speculation to believe this was a powerhouse or generator house for the colliery site here. As we'll see on the inside, there is lots of plumbing, maybe some old furnaces, possibly a workshop as well. But this is just a concrete building. It does have a vent on top, and another one of the places there on site that is now abandoned, but shows sign from the past. The other thing that actually comes to mind too, this may have been water filtration if it wasn't a powerhouse or generator house. I remember these things look like coffins. They're coffin shaped. Concrete base with some metal on top. And then you have some big valves here. PVF and Company. Atwood, it says. Big tanks in here though. Lots of plumbing. And a power board there. So let me know what you guys think. If it was for water filtration, was it a powerhouse steam plant, so to speak, or something else? It's also a big water drum right outside there too. So without a doubt, water did play a part here. It was obviously used for washing the coal, even for sluicing or for flume boxes for transporting material as well, depending on how they did their operation. But I have seen that at other mining sites. On the back side of the building now, and there is something else out here that's pretty freaking awesome. And it's this right here. At first I didn't know what it was, but thanks to the viewers in the comment section, they let me know this was a rail weed burner. So this actually rode on the rails. It's almost considered like a MLW, maintenance away piece of equipment. And it actually has some different things going on with it. So this large tank here, I believe, was for fuel. And the way it worked is that they'd go down the line, and these arms here would be able to be moved from the cab, and flames would come out of here. So this would be down close to the ground, and they probably have some going in between the rails and on the sides of the rails, and fuel and flame would come out and basically burn the weeds to eliminate them. Now they use rail weed sprayers where they spray a chemical to kill the weeds, but this is how they took care of weeds along the rail lines back in the day. No longer sitting on rails, but rails obviously came through here. Up here on the left through the trees is the way station I showed you earlier, and I don't know why this was left behind here, but it's still here, and it's a pretty awesome piece of equipment. The only time I've ever seen one is this one here. There's actually two different motors in it. The one right there, one I believe operated the traction wheels, and the other one, I think this was for motive power. The other one maybe for accessories, but there's numerous levers up there. I did climb up there last time I was here, but it's still sitting on its wheels, but just sitting on the ground. And I think it's a pretty cool piece of equipment, and it'd be neat if they were able to save it and kind of have it as a museum piece of sorts. But yes, this is a rail weed burner. You spot that shiny black diamond right there? No surprise we see that here, because we are at the location of the rail yard. This is the yard that would have been loaded with the coal cars, both loaded and unloaded. That would have came from the St. Nicholas breaker, went through that way station, and ended up here waiting for transport. Now, there are some cars over there in the most inner line, which are Reading and Northern cars. So I think they own this yard or this line, and to this day they still use those, I believe they're gondola cars, or I just call them coal cars, for transporting coal out of an active coal mining company just down there where we're headed next. I also do see a locomotive down there too, which probably was what was signaling that signal that we saw earlier. Looks like a Reading and Northern diesel locomotive. But this yard is being reclaimed by nature, and used to be bustling with activity, and now it's just more reminders from the past. What I'm about to show you now is going to be pretty awesome, at least in my opinion, because in my videos, more often than not, we talk about coal mining past, coal mining ruins. Well, we're actually going to be able to witness an active coal mining company in operation. And the equipment that's used, the expansion of the property, and just getting a good sense of the scale of it is really going to help put things into perspective from things I've talked about in the past and even today, to show you what a current coal mining company looks like in operation. I'm not sure if you'll be able to make it out on camera, but right down there, see that? It's like a trough. That looks like a flume for water, and it actually travels starting from the base of the hill there, and travels off in that direction towards the rail yard. And from what I could see, it goes Let's see, is it still going? Still going? Yeah, it's still going off in that direction. I do see a building down there and some coal cars as well. Now obviously I can't go down there, it is private property and still a partially active site, but I'm pretty certain that that is its original position. And at one time water is flowing through there, whether it's to transport coal or for silt or something else, but it looks like a water flume of sorts. Either that or it would have encased a pipe, but I'm pretty certain water went through there and is maybe leading towards that building that's off in the distance. But just want to point it out, little things like this hitting along the roadway in a more expansive coal mining site. Now this site here is known as the Gilberton Coal Company. It was founded in 1940 by John B. Rich. It's located on the eastern edge of the borough of Gilberton Road and obviously is still in operation today. And what we're going to see in the next several clips is this coal operation in different phases. So over here I do have a trommel that's rotating there, and that could be doing one of two things. It could either be separating the finer material from the larger, or it can also be used as a dryer to dry material. Looks like it may be separating it, and then it goes in conveyors and into the building and through different hoppers and conveyor systems. Now I don't know if this is strictly a strip mining operation or if it's both strip mining and underground mining. Those of you who do know, feel free to let us know in the comment section. Definitely strip mining though. We're going to see lots of pieces of heavy equipment, big front end loaders, big rock trucks, or as they call it, Euclids, and various buildings, hoppers, conveyors. It's a really massive, expansive operation. But this is what an active coal mining site looks like today. In the distance are the rails. I do see some Norfolk Southern covered hopper cars. Reading and Northern does services as well. And the road going through here is mainly active with triaxle dump trucks taking coal out of here, or waste material, whatever they're hauling. But it's on both sides of the road. It's a really dusty, dirty area. And including the town itself of Gilberton, which we're heading towards, we're going to see how dirty that town is and what it looks like being located next to an active coal mining site like this. Look at that, dune buggy. And even the side of the road here, the shoulder, it's all coal material. Silt powder, really soft stuff, black and dusty and dirty. Just the byproduct of that. And this is what takes place here all day, every day. There's truckloads of material going up and down the mountain and up and down the road. It's a super busy, active site. Not really ideal for me riding my bike here, but I am taking it really cautiously, pulling over on the shoulder when I have to, making sure to give the trucks the right of way as they do own these roads. On the side of the road here looks like a dragline bucket, probably came off a Bucyrus crane. And across the road, more buildings. Got a conveyor right there with a flag on top, dumping some really fine material like powder. Dozer right there. In the distance there is another conveyor coming out, dumping material into a hopper, which then goes out to conveyor and a shaker sorter. A lot of the same equipment you see on the television show Gold Rush. They use these very similar pieces of equipment for separating the gold from the material, as they call it, the pay dirt. Well, similar process here as they're extracting the coal from the waste material. If you look right there, there's two Euclids. They're getting loaded up with coal from beneath that hopper system. So it's coming up out of that building, up that incline conveyor, goes into that separator, and then gets divided to two chutes. And hopefully we'll be able to see one of those in action. Here's a little fun fact for you. When I was a child, I used to actually ride in one of those Euclids. My father used to drive one of them for a quarry company, much smaller version. This is going back to the 80s, but I used to sit on the seat with him, steer the wheel, and pull the handle to dump the load of material. I remember it pretty vividly. It was such an experience, and I was looking forward to going to see him at work. He'd let me get in the truck, steer it, dump the material, go back at the next load. A lot of fun, a lot of good memories. Oh, there it goes. The size of that thing. Those tires are actually bigger than a person. That's like a moving building. That's carrying a heck of a lot of coal. You can see the size of it in comparison to the triaxle truck there. Almost no comparison. Although I've ridden in one of those with my father as a child, driving one like that size would be another bucket list item. That looks like a heck of a lot of fun. You can see a Euclid dumping up there in the distance. As we pass these mounds of material, we've got more activity up ahead. Looks like a bit of a boneyard here. They have pieces of equipment in various states of disrepair. That Euclid with the box dumped up. Looks like they're doing some rear end work. Excavator, dozer over there. A sorter. But up here is what I want to show you, because if you're paying attention from earlier, that might look really familiar. And it is so busy here with trucks. Jeez. Does this building look familiar to you? If you were paying attention, we saw one very similar just a short ways from here at the former site of the St. Nicholas Breaker. This is a scale house for trucks. So on the other side of the building, there's two scales. They're concrete pads, the trucks go over them, sit on top of it, and the operator on the inside is able to read the weight of the truck loaded, unloaded. That way they're able to keep track of how much they're trucking in or out, just like there. So that truck's gonna go on the scale, park there, and they'll hear a buzzer sound, giving the all clear that they can proceed. So this is an active scale house, identical to the one we saw at the former St. Nicholas Breaker site, past and now present. Now that the coal company is behind us, that means we're entering now into the borough or town of Gilberton, Pennsylvania. This is going to give you a good idea of what a poor, small coal mining town looks like. I also do have some facts and information I'm going to share with you about this town as well. I'm going to show you some of the homes and what this town consists of, because a lot of these towns no longer exist, but this one still does. Gilberton is a borough in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania that was incorporated in 1873 and is named after John Gilbert, a coal mine owner. Extensive deposits of anthracite coal are in the region, and coal mining had been practiced by many of the 4,300 people who lived there in 1900. The population back in 1880 was over 3,000 people. The peak population was in 1910 at 5,400 people, and it's gone downhill ever since. The last time there was over 1,000 people was in 1980, and as of 2020, it's estimated to have around 500 people. So this is a town that went from 5,400 residents down to 500 residents. Came to a little park here in Gilberton. Little tiny sliding board, picnic table, remnants of a basketball hoop, some swings, and some climbing apparatus. Not much, but something. And you could see that they pay homage to coal. A little mural here. Looks like it may have been drawn by children or painted by children. A little locomotive pulling number 1, 2, and 3 coal cars. Alphabet painted there. Some other things. Look like it's pretty old and worn and weathered. Pretty sad looking football here. Reminds me of a prison yard almost. Just old beat up pieces of things to keep the prisoners active. Now boroughs, towns, and patch towns like this one here, Gilberton, were created due to the need for coal mine workers. So when the coal companies opened up, they needed to house the workers somewhere. So they always build the patch towns or these little townships or boroughs close to the coal companies. So that way the workers and their families have a place to live, but are still in close proximity to their job. When a lot of those coal companies go out of business, a lot of the towns do disappear. But this one, Gilberton, has survived. As you'll see though, it is a coal town. You're not going to see new homes here. You're going to see a lot of row houses, some condemned, abandoned houses, and just an overall dirty town. And that's nothing against the people who live here. This is just the conditions of it. Living really close to an active coal company, trucks, hundreds of trucks passing by daily, just kicking up dust, dirt, coal silt. Very hard to keep things clean around here. And even being outside, breathing it in, even my short time being here, myself, my camera, my bike is getting a layer of dust and dirt on it. So I can imagine what it's like being here every day for your life. It's going to be a really noisy, dirty, kind of run down looking town, but people still call this place home. You see this building here is barely hanging on. Looks like it was a residence slash a business next door. It's actually leaning to its side. May have been subjected to a fire, extensive water damage, no longer inhabitable, and probably won't be standing on its own for much longer. How you doing? I have a question. You live in Gilberton here? Yeah. Do you know, I'm doing like a video on the town and surroundings. Like a lot of people that live in this town, do a lot of them like work for the coal company? Do you know?
Some of them do.
Some?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was just curious, but I appreciate you telling me.
No problem.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. More empty, condemned houses here. I was talking to a resident here, and they said that the population's actually less now. I guess there was a flood here back in 2020. Population, he believes, is under 500. And he said there's a handful of people that work for the coal company. Others are retired. Others, like himself, actually work an hour and a half away for employment. So it's a mixture. But he said more or less of the town or these homes are empty and condemned or abandoned. Like this stretch right here, it is... You could tell it's just worn down. As I was mentioning, look at the condition when it's not maintained. Covered in a thick layer of dirt and silt. Power meter has been removed from this one. Even across the street. All these are empty. No longer inhabited by people. This is what it looks like when a town goes from 5,400 people down to less than 500. Many of these small coal mining towns or patch towns no longer exist, but this one has survived. But you could tell it's barely surviving. Figure we'd take a closer look at some of these homes here. Easy to tell that they're empty. Power meters have been disconnected, and just the layer of filth on them is just, it's surprising, but it's not. And actually standing this close, I can smell mold. Old pair of scissors right there. I don't want to stand all the way up on the porch here. But they're boarded up, not exactly posted, but not easily accessible. A couple of chairs here. Even a little razor scooter there. So maybe a child resided here too. I can imagine the residents sitting here, watching the traffic, talking to the neighbors across the street. Looks like a firehouse right there. But what a sight. This is a duplex. A lot of these are row homes though. And in my opinion, it's a very dangerous environment because if one of these homes, especially one in the middle, was to ever go ablaze, most likely all the connecting ones would be a total loss, either from the flames or from water damage or both. I mean, you could see, you could kind of scrape the grime and filth off the siding here. This one is posted. Honestly, there's no one here to even look after them. Power is disconnected here as well as the shingle siding and some more modern vinyl siding there. And even over here, I think this one's active. That one's posted. That one might be active, so it's a mixture. And if that was to ever go ablaze, those ones would probably be a loss. I'd imagine back in the day when all these homes were built, they were all heated by coal. I bet you today a lot of them still are. Some may be converted to natural gas if they have it here, or oil, but back in the day, every home here most likely was heated by coal. This one actually has a opening where the deadbolt would be. See if we can take a peek inside. It doesn't look horrible on the inside from what I could tell. And the one directly across the street is primarily gutted. Noticing a lot of these homes too have a similar design where it's higher up here, then it has a sloping back. Not sure if these are additions or not, but I have seen numerous ones with that design. Obviously this back porch is a bit more modern. Wow, this is actually nice back here. I'm surprised this home is empty. This is a nice back porch put on in the last few years. So there's an oil tank for oil heat. I'm surprised that this home is empty and abandoned. It's one of the better looking ones. Then we have over here, world of difference. Aside from some newer windows and sliding patio doors, looks like it's been stripped. It may have had aluminum siding that someone took for scrap. And since there's no windows or doors over here on the side, we should be able to get a look inside at what one of these homes would have consisted of. And there's in the basement. Not much to see there. And here we are in the living room. Wood paneling, probably a 70s remodel. Ceiling fan, drop ceiling over there. Little entryway, stairs going up. Wooden floors, obviously. Don't think they would have been hardwood floors. Had plaster and lath as the walls. And still some contents left behind. All these places tell a story. Families were raised here. People may have passed away here. Probably some good and not so good memories in each of these homes. This one even has a camper in the yard next to it. Oh, a bird just flew out of the house. Wondering maybe they at one point moved out of here, moved into there. But even that doesn't look like it's occupied at the moment. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these skinny homes were once part of row homes all the way across. As you make your way further through the town, just more of the same. Pretty sad looking sight. I actually think there's more empty homes than there is active homes here. There is a number of empty, abandoned, decaying homes. Some of them are a little bit nicer than others. Like this one here has some ornateness above the windows, some molding. Others are just simple siding. That's got newer windows. That has the original windows. And over here we have a duplex. And it's unique to see, one style compared to the other with two different owners. I just had to stop and show you this house here. This is a really tiny house. especially in comparison to the homes next to it. This is more of a full-size home, a single-family home. There's a duplex there, but this is a little tiny single-family home that is just minuscule in all aspects. Width-wise, height-wise, length-wise, and definitely not inhabited, I'll tell you that. Still has a power meter, but I would be shocked if people were still living there, especially based on that front porch condition and just the filth that's caked on that house. But it's a really tiny home. We have one more here that's abandoned, but is in between two active homes, and this one, the door is gone. Just wanted to give you a glimpse on the inside. Yeah, full of contents. TVs, console TVs, a bunch of TVs actually, personal items, drop ceiling, and it's for sale. Could call this place home. Probably a death trap though. I'd imagine water is getting in, floor is probably rotted, and who knows what you'd be falling into when you have nails and screws sticking out just like that. But just a glimpse on the inside of another one of these abandoned row homes here. There's some more former homes now laying in a pile of rubble. Looks like the job was started but never finished. This may have also been subject to fire. Not a pleasant sight. And we have a church right there, which looks like it's no longer offering service. There's the railroad tracks down there for Reading and Northern. And another church here, which actually this one does look like it does offer service still. It's a bit more maintained. Another skinny home there. And another set of abandoned homes. Just the traffic alone, I mean, I'm sure you get used to it after a while, but very hard to have some peace and quiet here. That's my look on the poor, small coal mining town of Gilberton, a place that many people still call home, but as we learned, that number is going down year after year. And although this town has still survived, there's no telling what the future is. With the way things are going, with people either passing away or moving out of the area looking for better jobs, more stable jobs, the town of Gilberton may be a town that's no more. Similar to Centralia and other towns that basically died off. When the mine companies closed, the towns disappeared. Centralia's case is an exception with the mine fire, but a lot of these patch town coal towns were created and taken away, all because of the coal companies. Time will only tell what the future is of Gilberton. But we're on to our next location now, a location I've been to a couple times. It's been a number of years since I've been there, but can you guess what it's related to? If you guessed coal mining, winner, winner. Yes, we are going to see something rather unique and interesting, and it is, once again, related to coal mining. I do have a ways to go, but if we find anything of interest along the way, we'll check it out. Otherwise, that will be our next target location. I wanted to point something out too. Coming up here on the left is another roadside find I filmed 1 to 2 years ago. I called it a baffling roadside find. The video went pretty viral, drew a lot of speculation as to what it could have been. And we have some, input pointing in the right direction, but still couldn't identify exactly what it was. This is what I originally spotted, but back there in the woods is what was really intriguing. I'm not gonna head back there now, it's really thick and overgrown, but that video as well will be linked down below if you wanna watch it for yourself. Now some of you may be wondering, Jay, why aren't you exploring some of these abandoned houses if there's so many of them? Well, 2 reasons. One is because they're right on the main drag here, so it'd be pretty blatantly obvious I'm going inside. Number 2, a lot of them are connected to active residences' homes, which would be a giveaway if someone's moving around inside an abandoned home. And lastly, it would just prolong my day that much more. I have a lot of things to cover today, a lot to show you, and as much as I would love to explore those homes, we at least got a glimpse on the inside. We know that there's still content in a lot of them, They're in pretty deplorable condition, but it's not really worth me going inside any of them for safety reasons and time reasons. Currently passing through the small town of Girardville. Similar look. Tons of row homes and duplexes. Some abandoned places. But a larger town, more residents, a bit more livelier than Gilberton. And somebody's got a giant skeleton next to a daycare. Very appropriate. Definitely seeing a mixture of active and abandoned, but more active than not. Seems like down here it's not as busy too as far as traffic. It's funny, I mentioned earlier in Gilberton that I can envision people sitting on their front porch watching the traffic or talking to their neighbors. That's what I'm seeing in this town. There's about 3 or 4 homes with older residents sitting on their front porch watching me go by. Probably a sight they seldom see. A guy on an e-bike talking to a camera. Now that we're through this town, we're less than 1.5 miles from our next location. In case you're wondering, so far I've put on just over 13.5 miles. We have many more to go. Oh, I just came upon another unexpected find. We have a bridge abutment dated 1932, I believe, or 1902. Obviously a bridge came across here. I don't know what's there, but I did notice in the woods over here something. And I think I may have seen this once before, but never had the opportunity to investigate it. And it's not intact where we could get onto it, but it is, what the hell did I just come upon? This might be someone's property down here. But there is an old rail bridge here. And it's made out of stone. Look at that. That is really cool. There's something down there, like a bucket, orange mine drainage water. Yeah, a stone train bridge here. It's disconnected, but would have went right across to that abutment on the other side. Yeah, I'd like to go down there, but that's someone's property. But thought it was worth sharing. A roadside find that I was able to show you along the way. We've arrived at our next destination. And I could smell it and I could see it. It is none other than the Big Mine Run Geyser. And she's a-flowing. So for those of you maybe who've never seen this before on my channel, I welcome you to the Big Mine Run Geyser. This is directly related to coal mining, the coal mining days of the past. Fortunate for you, there's no smell-o-vision because the smell of sulfur and rotten eggs is pretty pungent, pretty powerful. So you may be wondering, what's this for? Well, in theory, it's to help discharge mine water. So back in the active mining days, prior to 1930s, they were so far deep underground and probably below the water table that water is always entering the mines. And the mine companies had to run pumps 24/7 to keep the mines clear of water so that the mine workers could extract the coal. Once those mines shut down, the pumps were shut off. The water filled up the mines, eventually made its way to the surface, coming up through shafts and vents and everything else, eventually entering people's homes, their basements, their yards becoming saturated. So boreholes like this were drilled to basically allow that pressure of water to come out somewhere and not come out somewhere else. So this goes down roughly 300 feet down into the mine workings, where it's flooded down there. It's flooded all the time. Depending on the conditions up here with the amount of rainwater we get, will determine how much outflow is coming out. So if you're here after days of heavy rain, this could be flowing as high as 15 feet tall. If you're doing a dry spill, it could be coming out just like a little bubble, a little trickle of water. Today it's around 4 to 5 feet, so it's about average. I have seen it higher, have seen it lower, but it has been capable of going up to 15 feet high. That's a lot of water. So just think of like if you pop a water balloon with like a pinhole. You know, at first the water shoots out really strong and high. As that pressure gets down, the water stream gets slower and lower. So that's how it is. Underground is like a giant water balloon, and depending on how much water is in it, determines the pressure pushing up out here. So this is in theory and in essence saving people's homes and property and other things from water rising up and ruining their property. There is another borehole like this in Old Forge, Pennsylvania that was done by the Army Corps of Engineers. That one itself also goes down about 300 feet, and that is to expel the water all the way from Carbondale point south, a much larger area. Here, this is mainly in the Ashland, Pennsylvania area. But everything is stained orange. It is acid mine drainage. It's really unhealthy water, a lot of acidity to it. You don't want to drink it. You don't even really want to touch it. You don't want to eat any of the wildlife that may be in it, like fish or snakes or anything else. This is all expelling into the creek. That creek water is already orange. There's tons of mine drainage coming out in this area down here in the Girardville, Gilberton, Ashland area. So really polluted water. It's really unfortunate, but it is neat to see. Really bright and vibrant, really smelly, and it looks pretty awesome. Just a geyser coming up out of the ground. Not natural, it is man-made, but it is flowing non-stop 24/7. According to this sign, Ashland's on Tuesdays after 6 p.m. It's a Boyer's Market. And a Caterpillar dealer. Now the town of Ashland, Pennsylvania actually has some things I want to share with you as far as places to go, things to check out. But there's also some talk about this town because this town borders Centralia. As we all know, Centralia is a town famous. Lots of traffic. Famous for the underground mine fire. Now the fire itself has moved out from under the town of Centralia. You can find pockets of steam off Big Mine Run Road, which we are going to see later. Well, it's been rumored that Ashland could be the next Centralia. I don't know if there's any validity to that, but I have heard that from more than one source. And this is basically a close remnant of how Centralia used to look. The main thoroughfare going through, rows of homes, some businesses, school, and now it's just a shell of its former self, as I like to say. But we're going to climb up the hill here, up the main drag, and up there, there's a couple things I want to point out to you that if you're in the area, I recommend you stop and check out for yourself. First thing I want to point out is up this street here, 20th Street. See the sign coal mine? Well, up there, roughly 2 blocks, is the Pioneer Coal Mine Tunnel. That may sound familiar because myself, RJ, Jamie Macon, and even Randy of Emerald Sound Productions was just up there to operate their mine Loki, Lehigh Coal Company number 123. They also have an underground mine tour that I have done, I think back in 2020, but it's directly up there. If you're in or passing through the area, it's a fantastic mine operation, taking you in a deep coal mine in the mountainside and also offering you a steam train ride, educating you about coal country and anthracite coal. Not far from the Pioneer Mine and not far from Centralia is May's Drive-In Restaurant. Probably the best place to eat in this area. I come here every time I'm in the area. Myself and RJ dined here the day we did the Mine Loki operation. I would actually eat here today, but I brought my own lunch. But May's Drive-In, it's counter service, but the food's really good, made fresh to order. They even have ice cream and shakes as well, and it's pretty affordable prices. It's right here at the top, right at the intersection of 61. Centralia is right back there behind it, and we're heading there next. Directly ahead of us, where those arrows are pointing to the right, that is the former Route 61, better known as Graffiti Highway, or what was Graffiti Highway after it got buried. I'm going to show it to you really quick. So parts of it are still exposed, but most of it is buried under piles and piles of material. Where it is exposed, you can see some of the old and some new graffiti. Actually, let's take a little bit of a ride up there. And the reason it was buried, from my understanding, is because of safety reasons and just general disrespect from people being here. What ended up happening, and this is just one example, is that there was a fire that someone burned on part of Graffiti Highway. They were burning something, a pretty large fire, large enough to bring in the fire department, and the people that were there at the fire were giving the firemen a really hard time, like not cooperating with them, not letting them put it out. So that's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. Aside from that, though, there's been people racing down here and just other things, but it upset a lot of people when they bury this, rightfully so, because it's always been an attraction. One of the few things left to see in Centralia was the famous Graffiti Highway, but I understand why they buried it, to stop that type of activity. Now, this is privately owned, but it is open to public access. They have posted signs around stating you can't be here during hunting season and to publicly be on the grounds, no vehicles allowed, stuff like that. And I'm not going to go any further, obviously, but just wanted to show you and explain what it looks like today. You can still visit Graffiti Highway, formerly Route 61, but this is what you're going to see all the way up to the other side, where I'll show you what it looks like up there. Now, right off of Route 61 here is a little shrine. Graffiti Highway's up in that direction. But this is the location of another town, a town that's rarely talked about, that is no more because of the underground mine fire. Just over there, down the old road, was the town of Burnsville. Burnsville was a really small town, not anywhere close to the size of the surrounding towns, especially Centralia, but that was also lost due to the underground mine fire. Up here on the top side now, we're now at the other side, other end of Graffiti Highway. And it looks pretty much the same. We're up a little bit higher in elevation. It does go around a sweeping bend, then a long, long straightaway. I believe it was a 2-lane highway, and there's a section down there where the road did split apart and open up due to the heat of the underground mine fire. It worked as like a giant fissure. This is the main road, the main thoroughfare, just like we saw in Ashland. You would have seen homes and businesses on both sides of this road. And now there's only a handful of structures that still exist, including that church up there on the hill, which is private property. They don't want you going up there, but you can go in front of it to take a picture of it. But there was a school back here on the left. There was a service station, I think right here maybe, and a lot of other things, which I'm going to point out and show to you in just a little bit. But first, I need to stop, take a lunch break. I'm getting hungry. These steps here, it's actually steps for the old school that used to be here. I don't know all the specifics about this town, but my friend Adam Tereska does, and he has given public tours here before. And I believe I even have a Centralia playlist including his tours. So if you want to see my prior visits or maybe him giving a tour, sharing more of the details, that playlist will be linked down below. On today's menu, I do have an Italian hoagie. Where's it at? I do have a Hershey's bar with almonds for dessert. And I do have a bottle of water, which I actually have one on the bike I've been drinking on the way, but I do have a zero energy, zero sugar green Monster here. As I shared in the past, I no longer drink soda. I haven't drank soda since I had COVID. Back December 2021 is when I had COVID. I haven't drank one sip of soda since then. I lost the taste for it. But I do enjoy a carbonated beverage, so I do drink zero sugar Monsters from time to time. I think I'm only going to eat half of this right now. I'm not super hungry. I'll have some for later just in case. It is a store-bought Italian hoagie. I did put some extra Italian dressing on it. See, it looks pretty tasty. Once I do finish lunch here, we are going to pick back up with our tour. We're going to get on the bike and go up and down some of the empty streets here in Centralia. I'm going to show you where the mayor's house used to be, that I actually explored before they knocked it down. Railroad Ave down here where a train line used to exist. An old playground that's back here, and a couple other things. And after that, we're going to head just on the outskirts, where I'm going to show you where the mine fire is still burning today. Before we continue on, I do want to talk briefly about my mode of transportation today. Now, this e-bike is not new to me or the channel. I actually debuted it late in 2023 when I rode on a partially snow-covered D&H rail trail up near Carbondale and Forest City. And this bike took me on that and I handled it flawlessly. This is my second Aoki bike that I have reviewed for them. But since I reviewed this one, I have made some modifications. So just some brief specs. This does have a 1200 watt motor that can peak out at 1500 watts. Has an estimated range of up to and even over 200 miles. And that's not an exaggeration. At the bare minimum, 150 miles. But it can get up to 200 miles. The battery itself is this giant thing right here. The battery weighs over 25 pounds. It's a 52 volt, 60 amp hour battery. Massive, massive battery. Largest battery I've ever had on an e-bike. And the combination of the bike with the battery puts it at right around 100 pounds. And for the modifications, well, I did put on this extra large crate on back. I got that idea from Randy because I do have a standard size one, but I saw he had an extra large one, and I was able to get one off Amazon, which is much larger and can hold all my gear and then some. I do have a mounted bottle holder, which does have some netted pockets here. Phone holder, obviously. The one thing I love with this bike is that it does have a USB port behind the screen, so I can charge my phone while I'm riding. This used to have a half twist throttle, so this part wouldn't move. This section here would be the half twist part. And on my initial ride that I did with this, my hand was cramping up, getting really sore from having just to twist the half twist part. So I switched it to a full twist throttle, and it's 100 times better. It's way more comfortable, a lot easier. It's just like a scooter or motorcycle, twist and go. And the last modification you can't see, but it's inside the tires, the tubes. I took out the factory tubes and replaced them with self-sealing tubes. They're tubes that have a type of liquid, like a sealant, that if it was to get a puncture, when you remove the puncture, say it's a nail, a thorn, whatever it is, that sealant inside will seal up that hole. You may lose a little bit of air, which I always carry a pump with me, so you just put the air back in and it's good to go. I've seen tests of people riding over nails and screws and glass and puncturing the tire, but it seals itself so you could keep riding. So it's basically cheap insurance. So self-sealant tubes in this is basically the way to go on a bike like this. Also, this bike is just really comfortable and a joy to ride, and it's the perfect thing I'm using today for what we're doing because I'm able to cover a lot of miles. I'm not even going to put a dent into the battery with this thing today, but we're covering a lot of miles. Secondly, it's quiet, it's small, compact, I'm not drawing any attention. I don't have to worry about parking on the road. You know, when we stopped, I was able to park on the sidewalk, you know, it doesn't take up any room. Even coming here to Centralia, we're going to ride around these empty roads here, and we're going to be able to go nice and slow and easy. I could just throttle it, show you guys on camera at the same time, not to worry about traffic, cars, parking, anything of the sorts. So what we're doing today is best done on this, and I would say exploring Centralia itself is probably best done on an e-bike or a scooter, because you could cover a lot of the ground without having to park your car, walk out, get back in the car, move somewhere else. You could cover the whole entire town on just the e-bike or the scooter, including Graffiti Highway, the scooter, and all these streets. But Aoki A8 Pro Max is a fantastic bike. It's a beast of a bike and can actually go over 30 miles an hour. So if you want to get more information, there will be a link down below in the description. So it's hard to see, but back here is a baseball field and a basketball court. It's severely overgrown, so fortunately there's not much to see here. It's actually someone walking back there. But yeah, this is the baseball field right here. I remember seeing the backstop on a prior visit. And this is just like a little alleyway of sorts. Yep, I found it. Here's the old backstop. Home plate right there. So baseball field and stuck. See, there's a bench here. There's another one over there and an open clearing of blacktop. That is the courts area. I believe that was either basketball and or tennis courts. Possibly could have been a playground as well. But courts and baseball field right here. One of the few remaining homes right there. And we're gonna come over here to what is known as Railroad Ave. And I guess you could imagine how I got that name. This is Railroad Ave. To the right, the road goes that way. To the left, it kind of dissipates. But this was a former rail line that came through here. I think maybe the railroad itself came through where the tree line is here, next to the road. I'm not positive of that. I do want to venture down this way a little bit. I've never come down here before. So according to the map, I am riding on or next to the former rail line. I'm thinking the rail line was to the left of us here. Oh, this is just a dumping area. That's all it is. Yeah, I'm thinking the rail line is right there. Just a little bit of a mound or like a hump. That looks more likely of a rail bed. As far as I know, there's no remnants of it left. As far as ties, plates, rails, anything. For my own curiosity, I'm going to continue a little bit further down. If there's anything down there, we'll obviously bring you over and show you, but if not, we'll turn around and continue down that direction, down Railroad Ave. I went back maybe another 100 feet, nothing back there, just a trail going through the woods. But I am pretty certain, though, that the rail line that came through here would be to my right side, paralleling the road. That would make the most sense anyways. This is now the actual Railroad Ave, where there would have been homes back here and just some alleyways and cutoffs and driveways. Yeah, okay, here we go. So the rail line came right through the middle here, through this median. So I was correct on the position of it. Tracks came right through the middle, roads on both sides of it, homes along the sides of the road. There's some sidewalks here. Nothing left of it today though. Completely ripped up and gone. I don't even know which railroad it was or the dates on that. I remember Adam telling me about it. If I do find out the information, I will put it on the screen. But we have more to see here, so let's continue exploring. There is the municipal building, which does house a fire truck. That's still in there. It's not abandoned, it is an active building. I think they do assist Ashland if they have to. And this is just another road up here with a wall, I remember, which is now becoming graffitied and tagged up. And a lot of these former alleyways and driveways and roads are just slowly but surely getting reclaimed by nature. Just looking straight ahead here, you can see how the overgrowth is just inching its way onto the road more and more. And there is no maintenance on these roads as far as pothole patching, paving in the winter. It is essentially abandoned roads. Here's a great view here. So down there, past this pole line, is the first road. That's Railroad Ave. The pickup truck we just passed is parked right there behind the trees. So the rail line went in that direction. And then we're looking up towards the cemetery up there and the school. So it's kind of a valley. We're up on a hill. It goes down, then back up a hill. And on the top of the hill would be Graffiti Highway, just to kind of put things into perspective. I do want to take a few moments to talk about the future of Centralia, because there's been talk and rumors for years, if not decades, of what's going to happen to this town. One rumor out there is that possibly they could rebuild. They could make it a town again, start from scratch, make it how it used to be. The other rumor is that it could become an active mining site. But what happened, just to kind of bring it up to speed, is that when the mine fire happened, the government stepped in and proclaimed eminent domain on the homes here and the businesses. Bought everyone out. When they moved, knocked down the buildings, razed them, and the town became how it is today, with a few exceptions. There are a handful of people that stuck it out, refused to leave. The house I showed you earlier is one of those examples. There's just literally a handful of residents that still live here. Once they pass away, the house can't be passed on to another family member. At that point, once the homeowner does pass away, it does become government property, eminent domain, it will get destroyed. At that point, it's rumored that once all the homes are gone, all the residents have passed away or left, that the coal company that owns the surrounding land will mine this land again. Because where we are here, specifically on this part of town, the coal beneath the ground wasn't consumed by fire. There's still very large deposits of anthracite coal beneath the surface. So it is rumored and speculated that once the final resident does leave town under whichever way it is, they will start ripping up the ground and either strip mining or deep mining to extract the coal from underneath there. If that is the case, I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it depends on who you ask. I mean, it is being utilized for its resources, but the town will never look like how it once did. Even though it doesn't now, but you can still tell it's a town. There's still streets, guardrails, handful of buildings. I don't think the town would ever come back to where it was. The fire's never going to burn here again. It's already moved off from under town. But out of those two scenarios, I think it's more likely that they would mine this land rather than rebuild. This may look like just an empty, vacant lot, which it is, but it wasn't at one time. My very first trip here, which I think was maybe 2018, I came upon the house here. It was empty, and it was abandoned, and it was open door policy. Little did I know at the time, it was actually the home of one of the former mayors. His name was Carl Womer. He stuck it out here through the eminent domain. He passed on. His daughter basically was responsible for clearing out the property, and they only had a limited amount of time. Once that was done, people obviously made their way inside, tagged it up, rummaged through the place, and it became basically a trashed, abandoned home. I was one of the first people to document it. Not the first, but one of the first. For months afterwards, it got heavily documented, and each person that came here saw it in worse and worse condition. So I was one of the lucky few to come here to see it when it still looked like a home, still in relatively good shape, a lot of personal possessions left behind, and there's also a VHS tape that I rescued from there, which had all the news stations and coverage of the mine fire when it happened, and actually recorded it and put it on my channel for others to watch. So if you want to see that, it'll be linked down below. But the former mayor's house, Carl Womer, his home was here. I was able to explore it, document it before it was gone, and able to really preserve a piece of history, because now it is nothing more than just a vacant lot. But there are some things that still exist that I remember seeing from when I was here the first time. And if you look closely, you see that pipe being consumed by the tree. Well, that pipe came all the way through, and you can see where it used to exist right here is a cavity. While that pipe was here, it used to be a swing here, swing back and forth. So that piece is gone. The tree is now basically eating that piece of pipe up. And there used to be a garden over here. I remember some deer statues over there. It's a nice piece of property too. up behind here is a cemetery, and also up behind here is where the fire originally started. The fire started when they were burning garbage for their Memorial Day celebration in an open pit, and that pit had an exposed vein of coal, and that's what started the underground mine fire. It was an accident, but it led to a town becoming a ghost town. If I'm not mistaken, there are 3 cemeteries here as well. There's one up on the hillside behind that active church, the white one. There's one behind us that I talked about, and one on the other side of the road, kind of next to Graffiti Highway. So people still do come here to pay their respects, but obviously that's all that's really left, is just the cemeteries and a handful of structures. People still do come here, but there's not a whole lot to see today unless you know really where to look. I mean, what I'm showing you today is most of it. Graffiti Highway used to be the big draw. Now that's, for the most part, no more. There's not really much else to see. It's just a lot of empty roads here. And a lot of nature reclaiming. Here's the other cemetery I was mentioning too. This is St. Ignatius Cemetery. Now, since we've been talking so much about the coal mine fire, well, let's go take a look at where it's still burning today. We are now on the outskirts of Centralia, off the side of Big Mine Run Road. And we're here because this is the location of some steam vents. They're going to be really hard to see today because of the warm temperatures. Typically, it's best to come either when it's raining or during the winter. But this is a site I have documented numerous times, even when as far as cooking a meal with RJ in one of the steam vents. We made some hot dogs and beans using the heat from the underground mine fire. We also scaled this mountain and explored all the top and around, and we came upon dozens of vent pipes. Many of them had thermocouplers hooked up for monitoring down below into the mines. Some of them still had active steam coming out. Most of them did not. Now, what I'm looking at here, normally there is some heat being expelled. And I think there is, we just can't see it with our naked eye. But we might be able to see it with this. I did bring my infrared thermal gun, and we're going to see if it actually shows a heat signature coming out of these fissures and crevices, because that one there, I don't remember that's the one we cooked at, or it might be over there. But there's numerous sites here where heat was being expelled, and we're going to see here May 1st, 2024, if that's still the case. Not sure how good it's coming through on camera, but I'm going to capture a still image. And there is indeed a heat signature right in the center of the screen, which is basically pointing right there. It is 112 degrees. The ground in front of it, which is coming down towards us, 90 degrees. Now, for comparison, if we come over here, it's in the 70s and 80s. The tree right there is 81, 82 degrees. Actually 78 degrees. Coming down lower here, it's in the 80s. So it's not significantly hotter, but it is hotter. It's definitely a heat signature and some heat coming out of that little fissure or vent right there. See if we can find another one here. Trying to remember which one we cooked at. I want to, oh yeah, it's right there. I can actually see the steam coming out from here. That's the one that myself and RJ made our meal at. Right there. So that one is definitely hot. Even on a warm day like today, which is in the 80s, I think it's around 80 degrees. I can see the steam coming out from here. There's also was an active one over here, which I believe is no longer spewing heat. I want to check it first before we get up closer to that one. This one right here, let's give a scan. Okay, it's still hot. 114 degrees. Took a still image for you. Now the one up there that we're going to check out, when we were here the first time, there was temperatures near 200 degrees. So it's not burning as hot as it used to be. Obviously the fire is still moving, but the heat is still making its way to the surface. This one's always tricky to get to as well. I'm gonna, let's see, I'm gonna scan from here. Oh yeah, that's blazing. You can see a glowing yellow on the screen there. So that is 119 degrees roughly. I'm gonna try to get up there all the way and see if we could scan into the opening, see if it's any hotter. Hopefully it's coming through on camera, but that is indeed steam that you're seeing right there. The rocks are covered in a sludgy slime. It's damp and moist, but there is indeed heat coming from down there, and you can actually see it's fogging up the camera. It's so hot. So let's get a reading here. Wow, it looks like lava on the screen. 120 degrees it's showing. Not super hot, but in comparison to the ambient temperature, it feels really warm. It's like a steam room or a sauna. But many years ago, when we first discovered this, it was showing over 200 degrees. Hot enough to boil water. But up on top, as I mentioned, there is a steam vent up there with steam coming out, thermocouplers. But this whole mountainside has old roads and vent pipes for them documenting the passage of the fire, where it's moving, how hot it's reading, the gas is coming out. Now this steam coming out is not, just steam. There is gases involved. But since we're out here in the open, it's diluted in the atmosphere and the oxygen. So it's perfectly safe to be out here, to be next to this. But you wouldn't want to breathe in directly, or to basically put like a tarp around this. Although you could stay warm in there, it wouldn't be good for your lungs. But people always say, too bad there's not a way we can harness this, and use it for something useful. I agree. But to this day, even in modern day, it's just left to burn on its own. And they said there's enough fuel for it to burn close to another 200 years. It's kind of crazy to think about it. People always ask, either in my comment sections or on Facebook groups, is the Centralia mine fire still burning? Yes, it is. That's proof of it right there. But it's no longer burning under Centralia. This is along Big Mine Run Road, which is between Centralia and Ashland. Depending on what direction it's going, Ashland could or could not be next. Who knows? If you ever want to come see these steam vents for yourself, easiest way to do it is when you're coming from Centralia. You're going to go down Big Mine Run Road, and you're going to see on the left-hand side in the distance the big windmills that are spinning on the mountain. When you were passing those, the road bends to the right. As it does that, just a short ways down on the right-hand side is where these vents are. There's no signage, no posting here, but there's a pathway walking in to where we are here. Really easy to get to. There's enough room on the shoulder on the other side of the road to park, and this is land you're allowed to be on. It is hunting land. It's posted no vehicles allowed, but you're allowed to come here, check it out. Obviously, not the best terrain, but if you come during the winter months or when it's raining, which will cool the ground, the steam will be that much more evident. You never know it by looking with your own two eyes, but there are a bunch of heat signatures on this hill, ranging from the 70s to the 90s. This is a neat little tool. I'm glad I brought it. These steam vents, though, are the final location that I had planned for today. But the video is not over yet for a couple of reasons. Number one, I still need to make it all the way back to my starting point of Frackville, Pennsylvania. So far, we put on 24 miles, and I should be taking a very similar route back. So once we do return, I'll let you know the total mileage. Also, as far as I know, I covered everything on the way here, but there is a chance I missed something and may spot it on the way back, because when I do ride this e-bike or any e-bike, I'm really paying attention to my surroundings. My head's on a swivel, my eyes are scanning, so if I do spot something, I will indeed share it with you. But as I'm making my way back, what I encourage you to do is to sit back, relax, and enjoy my photo montage of all the images I captured throughout the day. We are several hours into this day and this adventure, and once we do return, once I give you the totals on all that, I will share my final thoughts on today's coal country adventure. We've arrived safe and sound back in Frackville. And all I could say is thank goodness I had this bike. This thing really helped make my day that much more enjoyable. We put on just over 33 miles and are down one battery bar, and a lot of that was hills. 924 was a big hill on the way back. Centralia, really hilly town, and some other hills in between that you didn't get to see. There was a lot of work involved, and this bike did most of it. With the mileage that we covered today and the hills that we encountered, if I was on a traditional bike, I never would have made it. I just don't have the stamina or endurance to do that many miles or length or steepness of hills on a regular bike. So this allowed me not only to get some exercise, but also to have the energy to still go on adventures and exploring. So I'm glad I had this bike to bring along, because otherwise, if we were driving, it wouldn't have been as fun. Have to keep pulling over, parking, getting out. With this, I could film as I'm driving, pull over on the sidewalk, not take up any room, not bother anyone. It really made a world of difference for doing a video like this. With that being said, with today what we covered being coal country, I think we saw a great variety of things. Some things we've seen in the past on my channel, some things new for the first time. With seeing the poor, small coal mining town of Gilberton really puts things into perspective as to how some people are living, the environment, the conditions, the size of the homes. I mean, it really is an eye-opener that some people don't often experience or even know about. And knowing that that town mainly exists due to coal mining, and knowing that it's on the decline, at least we got to check it out in present day to see what it's like, got to talk to a resident, and to know that as the years go by, less and less people are living there. Then we also saw more thriving towns like Ashland, even Girardville, and of course the ghost town of Centralia, which is basically a shell of its former self. Aside from that though, we saw some really cool things like the geyser, some abandoned buildings, and the rail weed burner at the St. Nicholas site. Things that we've talked about a lot, things that we've seen in other locations, but in this video, it kind of brought it all together, both past and present, including the active Gilberton Coal Company, which was pretty fun to see, seeing those giant Euclid trucks driving around and just seeing the operation, how much is involved just for processing coal. It's kind of mind-blowing. People take coal for granted because it's everywhere under the ground in coal country here, and that you could buy it from distributors, but the amount of work that goes into it for extracting it is a whole nother story. And that's where you guys come in. I want to know your thoughts on today's journey and adventure through coal country. We put in close to 6 hours today, and with this being a lengthier video, there was just so much to see. So if you did watch until now or still watching, please do me a favor, leave a blue heart with your comment. Lets me know that you did watch to the end. And feel free to share your thoughts on what you saw, what you experienced through my eyes on our adventure together. Lastly, I just want to thank you, yes you, so very much for not only the support, but for coming along on my adventures, for commenting, liking, and just being a part of my everyday life as I make these adventures just for you. As always, everyone, I'll see you in the next video.